Last week, I promised to tell you about the thing nobody warned you about when you make this move to Vietnam. I said it's not visa paperwork, it's not the language barrier, and it's not finding an apartment or setting up a bank account. Those things are real friction, but they're solvable in weeks. You find a lawyer, you get a SIM card, you find a place to live. None of that is what derails serious professionals who make this transition. What derails them is the subtler and more expensive. It's the 6 to 12 months you spend just trying to get oriented, trying to figure out who to trust, which advisors are actually qualified, which introductions are worth making, which opportunities are real, which ones will waste your time. Is it the period where you're building from scratch in a market you don't fully understand yet, or with no existing network behind you and no one to tell you what they wish they'd known before they arrived? I've spoken to operators who have been in Da Nang for over a year who are still making the same introductions they could have made their first month if the right infrastructure had existed around them when they landed. That's not a small thing. That's 12 months of compounding momentum you don't get back. The real hidden cost of arriving in Vietnam without the right infrastructure isn't money, it's time. And in a market that's moving as fast as this one, at a moment when the professional landscape is still open enough that the relationships you build now carry real weight, time is the one resource you cannot recover. Here's what most people get wrong when they treat the move to Vietnam the way they'd treat any relocation. You'd land, you sort out the logistics, you figure out the rest as you go. That approach works in a market that's already mature. Vietnam is not that market yet. It's moving toward it fast, but right now, the gap is between arriving with the right infrastructure and arriving without it is larger than almost any other market I've been in. Let's start with what's actually missing. I want to name them precisely because they're distinct problems that require distinct solutions, and most people only discover them after they've already paid the price. The first gap is legal and business infrastructure. Vietnam's regulatory environment is navigable, but without proper guidance, it's a real risk. Entity structures for foreign operators, banking access, tax obligations, land lease rights, all of these have nuances specific to foreigners operating here, and the advice circulating in expat Facebook groups is frequently incomplete, out of date, or just wrong. I've spoken to people who've made significant business decisions based on foreign information, and that cost them months of backtracking and real money to correct. The difference is between having a qualified local advisor in your corner from day one versus figuring it out alone is not marginal, it's structural. The second gap is the right network, and I want to be specific here. There are a lot of people in Da Nang, but the community is not homogenous. There's a transient layer that's big. It's backpackers, travel bloggers, short-term digital nomads, and then a much smaller serious layer. Founders, investors, operators running real businesses with real capital. These two groups are in the same city, but they don't naturally mix. The serious layer has largely stopped attending general networking events because the signal-to-noise ratio doesn't work for them. Finding the serious layer takes time and the right introductions. And most people who arrive without existing connections spend months in the wrong rooms before they find the right ones. The third gap is lifestyle context. This sounds less critical than the first two, but it compounds everything. Where you live affects your productivity, your cost structure, and your access to the international community. Which neighborhoods work for which types of operators, how to negotiate rent, what the healthcare situation actually is, how to navigate social dynamics between the expat and local professional community. Nobody sends you a manual. You figure it out slowly and at real cost. 3 gaps, all of them solvable, none of them obvious until you already hit them. I want to make the cost of this concrete because I think most people underestimate it until they've lived it. Think about what 6 months of orientation actually cost you. In time, 6 months running at half capacity while you figure out who to trust, while you build relationships from scratch in an unfamiliar environment. In money, the mistakes you make without qualified legal guidance, the bad leases you sign, the wrong advisors you pay, the opportunities you pass on because you don't have enough context to evaluate them correctly. In momentum, the compounding effect of those 6 months on everything that follows in a market moving as fast as Vietnam, the people who arrive 6 months before you with the right infrastructure are not at a small advantage. They're at a significant one. I've had direct conversations with serious operators in Da Nang who landed with real businesses and real capital and still spent the better part of a year just getting properly oriented. People who would have been in the right rooms, making the right introductions, building the right relationships if the structure had existed to plug them in immediately. In almost every case, when I describe what that structure looks like, the response is the same. I wish this had existed when I arrived. Here's the other thing most people don't factor in. The window in Vietnam is real, but it is not permanent. The market is moving towards maturity. The professional ecosystem is forming. The introductions that are meaningful today, the relationships you can build right now with the founders, investors, and operators who are shaping what this market becomes. Those introductions will not be as accessible in 2 years. The window for arriving early with context, with the right network already in place, and with your infrastructure sorted, that window is specific to this moment. Figuring it out alone is an option. People do it, but it is not the efficient path. And in a market with a closing window, efficiency is the entire game. So, what does the alternative actually look like? A version of this transition where you don't figure it out alone, where you don't spend 6 months in the wrong rooms, where you don't land in Da Nang and start building a network from zero. That version looks like this. You arrive with a vetted peer network already in place, people operating at your level, building for the same reasons, who have been through the orientation you're about to start and can compress that timeline dramatically. You arrive with in-country legal and business counsel already in your corner. Not a foreign post, actual advisors who work with foreign operators specifically. You arrive with lifestyle context already settled, where to live, what to expect, how to navigate the practical details, and you arrive with a curated event circuit, a structure for meeting the right people in the right context on an ongoing basis across Vietnam and Southeast Asia. That's what the Lotus Protocol is built to deliver. A private, invitation-only society for founders, investors, and globally mobile professionals who are making this move or seriously considering it. Not a forum, not a Facebook group full of trolls, an actual infrastructure play built around the people who are doing this at a high level. The entry point is a private discovery consultation, 60 minutes, one-on-one with me, a $150 session fee, applied in full towards membership upon acceptance. Not everyone is accepted. The selectivity is the foundation of what the network delivers. If what I've covered over the last 2 weeks resonates, if you recognize the gap I'm describing because you've already started to feel it, That consultation is where it starts. The link is in the description. Next week, I'm going to put a face on all of this, Da Nang specifically, the city, the quality of life, the professional landscape from someone who has been inside it, what it actually looks like to build there, and why the timing right now is specific in a way it won't be much longer. See you next week.